Sunday, February 18th is the date. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Figure Four Podcast. My name is Doug. This episode, Dalton and I are going to be throwing our 2 cents in on what's going on with Vince McMahon. A lot of allegations, a lot of nasty allegations coming out. And it's not just one person. Sounds like it's a few and a few other executive names, possibly some other wrestlers involved. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Let's get to it. Enjoy the show. Okay, so Vinny. Okay, so it's a 67-page lawsuit. Janelle Grant is the lady's name. This is all going back to 2019 when she met Vince, and it's not just Vince. She's suing Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and the WWE. All three are named in the lawsuit. So this is the second time Vinny is going to have accusations thrown at him in the last year and a half, 2 years or something like that.
Yep.
So he stepped away the first time. Next thing you know, he comes back. And the only reason he was able to come back was because whenever he stepped away, he didn't sell his shares. He was still majority stockholder at the time. So he came back and just basically went in and was the boss again. Now I don't think this is going to be so easy. I talked to Adrian about this before. Jerry McDivitt, his lawyer, got him away from the federal government back in 94, and we talked about this without calling a witness, which was pretty damn impressive, but Jerry's going to earn every goddamn bit of his paycheck now. I just don't see Vince walking away from this. There's a lot of bad allegations. So, from the notes I got, Grant met McMahon in 2019. I guess they lived in the same building or something. Or it
was something like that.
It was in around there. Vince started getting close to her and all this stuff. He offered her a role in WWE after a while. At first, she didn't really have a title, so he made up a title for her. She was administrative coordinator or something. And then she got moved to talent relations with John Laurinaitis, basically for sex. They were screwing each other. Then eventually, she started having sex with John Laurinaitis. And then next thing you know, it was more than just Vince and John Laurinaitis. It was, well, the wrestlers that had the dildos that had the wrestlers' names and threesomes and all this stuff. Now, she's got text messages going back from 2019. You have some of those text messages there, right?
I do.
Let's hear a couple.
Okay, before I get into this, and I want everyone to understand, it's still allegedly happened, okay? There's nothing that we have here, whether it's court document or text, to prove or discount what may or may not have happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to divulge where I got these from. Anyone that's a sleuth and they're good with an internet browser and want to search, feel free.
You can find them. You can find anything on the internet if you look hard enough.
Now, the reason that these were found is because the suit is public. Like it's out there. You said it's like a 60 or 70 page suit.
Yeah.
So that's how these were obtained, is that pages from the suit they made their way onto the internet. Some of these texts, you can tell that they are official. Like they've got, that they were presented to the court. Like they've got official court statements above them, and then it's the text message where you can see like the contact that the text is coming from is labeled V, and underneath it says Vince. The first one that guys, I'm just going to say this now. There's some of the material in these text messages it's bad. It's really bad.
Vulgar.
So I'm gonna. It's very vulgar. So I'm gonna do my best to substitute words. And just use like just different words for some of the stuff that's in this. So just please be warned. Some of it's graphic. I'm going to try my best to keep it clean, but just so you know, if you don't want to hear it, turn it off. Don't listen to this part. Do whatever you got to do. So this is item 138. Following the threesome on May 11th, 2020, McMahon sent an explicit message to Miss Grant that further details his fantasies of seeing her engaged in sexual relations. It was sent at 1:46 p.m. Eastern, May 11th, 2020. I love it. That's you, Janelle. You just can't get enough, can you? In the future, it's going to be so bad that you'll be demand to be fucked twice a day, and not just by. And the name was redacted. It's actually blacked out. I'm not just not naming names. In a three-way. Why not let others see that beautiful, voluptuous body and watch you shake uncontrollably whenever you have an orgasm? They'll go out of their minds.
Again, you're substituting words here.
Yeah. They'll go out of their minds, then find more friends, and will tie you up so you're helpless. I'll direct them to have their way any way that they want. Who can make you scream the loudest? Maybe I'll just line them up and let them go in your mouth, your vagina, all over your body. At the same time, you'll be covered in semen, and we'll make you eat it and taste everybody's semen. The next morning, you'll be a little bit sore, but you're still going to want more after all of that fornicating over and over. That's the first one.
Jesus.
Now, it doesn't get any better. It gets worse. Item 142. After the threesomes began, McMahon became more sadistic in his fantasies, focused on control, such as choking, sensory deprivation, pain, humiliation, and group scenarios, in which Miss Grant was to be physically overwhelmed and subservient. This text message I am not going to read. I just wanted to give you an idea as to what the item was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read that text message. It's just too much. So that was 148 or 142, I think. No. 142. So the next one that I've got here, it's actually two different text messages. Item 147, around the same time, McMahon openly shared explicit photographs and salacious stories about Miss Grant with WWE crew at tapings, a group McMahon also referred to as her fan club. Indeed, McMahon exuberantly messaged her a truthful story of having just shared explicit content of her with the group of 12 men on the WWE tech crew, and recounted the obscene details that he shared with them. So this was at 8:59 p.m., July 21st of 2020. I just passed my phone around to a bunch of guys on the tech crew, and they were screaming, "Oh my God, she's fucking beautiful. Look at that ass. I'd like to get that." I paused to count how many guys that there were. There were 12. And then I said, okay, there's 12 of you, and she would love to fornicate each and every one of you at one time. The guys cheered. But she'll only do it if she takes 3 at a time. That brought a huge reaction. She wants one deep in her anus, one way down her throat, and one in her vagina. And you can pound her and keep on pounding her until you pop your load. She may scream and try to say no, although it would be difficult to say anything with a penis down her throat. They all laughed. I then said, listen, no matter what, just pound away until you squirt. Baby, these guys were having a blast with me. Some of them didn't believe me, so I said, you were the greatest. I can't even replace that word. You're the greatest lay in the world. We'll go with that. And no matter how much you get, you always wanted more. And then I said, she loves semen. Baby, these texts, as we call them, were having the time of their lives listening to my truthful story. He says truthful in here. I then said you would take a 10-minute break in between each session, but that you would get back on your hands and knees with your ass in the air and say, okay, I'm ready. Who's next? I drove them wild, baby. I should say you drove them wild. Just imagine if this really happened, baby, how much semen you would have coming out of your out of your holes.
Jesus Christ Almighty!
Oh
And
Lord.
these are court documents. This is not made up shit.
No, it's like they're actual items that go in. Like they explain like what the text message is. Um, you know, it does name some people, like Laurinaitis is mentioned in some of these text messages, but one of one of the people that were involved, they keep on blacking out their names, and I don't
See,
know why.
there's something else that they talk about as well. Now this was from the research I did. On May 9th, 2020, Vince was having a threesome with this lady. And at the time, all she knew was it was a friend of Vince's. Turned out it was his physical therapist. And that's when the alleged defecating took place. So as this guy was having his way with her, Vince took a dump on her and was screaming at her to keep going.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's
it's tough.
still it's hard to believe this is a real thing.
Yeah.
But and again, they're just allegations, they're accusations. Vince is denying it, obviously. So okay, so we'll get away from the text messages. They're disgusting. Um, so so yeah, it was his physical therapist was what was when the defecating happened. Um,
Yeah.
he kept and I guess another thing allegedly that he loves to say is no means yes. There is no,
Yep.
pal. There is no sick, pal. God damn it.
And the crazy thing is that when so this all took place before the merger with UFC and they formed TKO. This happened before
Yes.
that.
This started in
So
2019.
so Vince promised her. Now again, this is alleged. He promised her 3 million in hush money to basically just go away. TKO comes in and they see that she's apparently on the books as being paid off, and they're like, "Well, this didn't happen on our watch." They stopped payment, so she only got like maybe 1 or 1.5 million allegedly.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on using that word. And so a lot of people are saying, well, this is her way of flipping the company, WWE and TKO off because she didn't receive full payment.
Well, what I got here and what I found was so where are we at here? There's another name. Now, this is coming up too. There's another name that, and maybe it's the one that they keep blacking out, but supposedly Vince used her as a pawn to make a wrestler whose name they won't release sign a new contract.
Yep.
Now, obviously, rumors, and the first name that comes up is Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
Now, and which is part of the reason why he wasn't used in the Royal Rumble. They're not going to use him creatively until they figure this out, which might mean the end of his career.
He's been completely written off, man. You can't even get his merch anymore. I don't think.
No. So let's keep going. Now, again, this is the story, and we'll try to keep like with the timeline because there's too much. It just jumps all over the place. So in November,
There's so much.
In November 2019, supposedly she goes to Vince and she said she wasn't feeling well. She went to her doctor and she said she was suffering from trauma and stress and like she wasn't well. She was high blood pressure, depression, the whole nine. This is what she told Vince, her doctor said. And Vince, supposedly, Vince's response to her was, "My ass, there's nothing wrong with you." But then, eventually, shortly after that, Vince did send her to a doctor of his choosing. Now, why she said he did that, I don't know. There was never any explanation or anything given after that. But I guess it's not like she can come out with a tell-all book right now whenever you're getting ready to go to trial about this.
Yeah.
But supposedly, Vince sent her to a doctor. Now, and we talked about her, and again, the rumor is it was Brock Lesnar. But again, we don't know anybody's name because, like you said, they blacked it out. They're not saying anything. You got to wonder now whether it was Lesnar or not. When they go to trial and she says that she was a pawn for this wrestler to sign a new contract, won't they have to subpoena that person and get that name lifted so they know, so they can bring him in to testify? Or her, for that matter. Seriously. She just said a wrestler to sign a new contract.
Yeah, I mean, if this is going to go all the way, I mean, they're going to have, like, if they've got names and witnesses that they're talking about, and if that was the case, like if she was promised up as a gift to whoever the superstar was, they're going to have to be named. They're going to have to show up in court. Like, they're going to have to testify.
Well, not necessarily. Look at the steroid trial back in the 90s. They got Hogan to go up and testify, but he would only answer certain questions. So, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Anything can happen. But you would think that this person will have to be named, or at least give the name so they can attempt to be questioned. Because, I mean, this is a pretty huge deal. So supposedly, Vince was showering her with gifts, cars, clothes, vacations, dinner, flowers, all that stuff. There was no sign. At this point, she still had a job with the WWE. She was, excuse me, I'm drinking beer. At this time, she was still involved with the WWE and talent relations. So in January, as the story goes, January 2022, Linda McMahon found out about her and Vince McMahon's relationship. And Vince, pretty much in Vince McMahon fashion, told her time when WWE was over and, hit the bricks, basically. And before she left, he convinced her to sign an NDA, which means she could never talk about anything or blah, 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 or any of that bullshit. And for her signing this NDA, he would pay her the hush money you were talking about. But then Vince stopped the payments. But like you said, it wasn't actually Vince that stopped it. It was the merger group that basically put the kibosh on it.
Which, you know what? I don't blame them. I mean, it not, and I don't mean to say this to belittle the situation. It's a very serious situation. It's a wrong situation. But from the TKO standpoint, it didn't happen on their watch. Why would they continue to pay money for something that was not their fault? It was allegedly Vince.
That's right.
So I can see where they're coming from. It, like, from their standpoint, why they would say, this isn't our problem. We're not paying it. And again, not to belittle the situation or to make light of it, or whatever. I can see where they're coming from there. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It wouldn't look good if it was discovered that you were a part of hush money.
Yeah.
Type thing. So she also says that, and they haven't been named either, at least not yet. High-ranking WWE officials knew about what was going on and did nothing about it, nothing to stop it. Their names have not been released as of yet. Now, that being said, WWE fans would remember Ashley Mazzaro. She committed suicide back in 2019. Supposedly now, there was similar things going on with her back in 2006. And again, this is, I'm going to play a clip here in a minute from a friend of hers that was basically telling what happened when Ashley Mazzaro went and told WWE about what was going on. Allegedly, Ashley they were over in the Middle East doing a show for the troops, entertain the troops, and allegedly Ashley Masereau was raped by members of the U.S. military while she was over there in 2006. In 2019, WWE denied knowing about it. Supposedly now, after the tour was over, she stayed behind in the Middle East for a few days. Why, I don't know. I couldn't get much further than that. But I'm going to play a clip here from a friend of hers. Now, she says that when Ashley went in for this meeting, WWE officials were in there. Vince McMahon was in there, and Stephanie McMahon was in there. So this is what her friend had to say. Take a listen to this.
Many times. Vince had his daughter,
Stephanie McMahon,
take his place because she was a female, a woman, and to make Ashley comfortable, and they just played with her. They played with her because everything that Stephanie had made her feel comfortable and safe about. As soon as they walked into this boardroom meeting, Ashley was on her own completely, and she was threatened, and there was no compassion, there was no sympathy, there was nothing.
So Ashley Massaro, your best friend, told you that she went into a boardroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the WWE, where Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon, and other executives were seated.
Yes.
And that's where she was told this has to stay under wraps.
That is right. And she had, right before she walked into that boardroom, she talked to the locker room doctor, who was aware of everything, and he was actually very sympathetic to her, but he had no pull. So he gave her the advice that he could, and
so that's right from Ashley Masereau's best friend or friend, whatever she is. So, and again, was now I honestly don't remember. Was this before how long after this? Now, this was 2006. This would have happened. Do you remember the date that Stephanie basically dropped everything on her desk in WWE and said, "I'm out"? Was it in the last 2 years, or was it a little longer?
It was literally the day after Vince was cleared and he came back as the boss. It was like literally the next day.
Oh, it was that quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, now this is where conspiracy theories are going to start.
She wanted to distance herself, man. It's almost like, now from what, and we've talked about this before, from what I've heard is that Stephanie and Shane both tried to like kind of get Vince to stop doing what he was doing backstage. Or in closed boardroom meetings with the female talent. When he wouldn't, they basically just said, "You're on your own." So when Vince stepped down, like a year and a half ago, when the previous suit came up against him, Stephanie she took over like COO, or like co-COO, because Khan was, like, he was the other half. It was they were pulling dual duties.
Nick Khan, yeah.
Nick. And so when the charges against Vince were dropped, I want to say it was like literally the next day that Stephanie resigned. She would have nothing more to do with the WWE moving forward.
Okay, so maybe she knew the shitstorm was coming even then, right? But
Very well could be.
We don't know. This is all still, and again, we got to keep saying this just in case even some lawyer like Jerry McDivitt is, they said this on a podcast. This is all not founded. This is evidence that's being entered. It's people talking. Vince has not been officially charged with anything. So this is all allegations. So
yep.
We're not saying he took a dump on people. It's all hearsay. It is what it is. Okay. So both of the McMahons were in that room. Oh, you're back. Okay. Technical issues. We got her now. Okay. But yeah, like I was saying, the allegations, all allegations, nothing has been proven in court or anything like that. But yeah, both McMahons were there, told her to shut up. And it was all basically just so they could keep a good rapport with the U.S. Armed Forces. That's basically but that's basically why Ashley Masereau was raped and told not to talk about it. It's actually sickening. I mean, but now this is all the information I could come up with so far between Miss Grant and Ashley Masereau as of now. But I mean, if you look at what happened, even back, remember a few weeks ago, I told you about that Phil Donahue. When it was in the late 80s, early 90s, McMahon went on there about sex allegations. Now, it had nothing to do with him, but it was going on in the World Wrestling Federation at the time. And they were talking about sex with boys, drugs, steroids, sleep with Pat Patterson, or you're going to lose your job type thing. Now, had nothing to do with him, but it wouldn't surprise me now. Now, Miss Grant has come out and she's made her name public. She wants it to be public in hopes that people will start following suit. Now, and it will happen. Now, look at the shitstorm. We all love Dark Side of the Ring. Look at the shitstorm that came out after the episode on the plane ride from hell. WWE, like with Ric Flair basically walking around helicoptering his penis around that stewardess and wouldn't leave her alone and was, he was put her hand on his cock and all this stuff. WWE went shitstorm crazy over that and cut Ric Flair out of everything and blah, 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 blah. And that never went to trial. Of course, Ric Flair denied all of that stuff. But Tommy Dreamer was like, no, you're damn right it happened. I watched it. Of course it happened.
Yep.
And I think it was Dustin Rhodes actually went up. I could be wrong, but I thought it was Dustin Rhodes that went up and pulled Flair away and said, leave her alone or whatever. But now that never went to court. This is going to court. So it's just, I don't know. It's like I said before, Jerry McDivitt got McMahon out of the federal government lawsuit. And he's going to earn every goddamn bit of his money with this because I just don't see Vince getting out of this. But again, you look at the 80s with when that steroid trial was going on, the sex within the company, like if you want your job, sleep with this person, the drugs, the steroids. And then, everyone over the years, at least from the time we were old enough to understand what was going on until now, there's always been stories about Vince McMahon and womanizing and all this stuff. The last 2 years, this is the second time in 2 years, maybe a little less than 2 years, that he's got accusers coming out and saying, you did this to me, you're a pig, you did this, you did that. It's not a good look for the McMahon family. And now with Stephanie, that whole family might be in trouble. I think maybe with the exception of Linda. Linda and probably Shane are about the only two, but I think Stephanie and Vince are in for it's not going to be a fun time to be a McMahon for them.
I wouldn't say. And I mean, maybe he doesn't have any knowledge of it because this was going on. This has been going on long before.
Of course.
Hunter and Stephanie ever got married. I mean, we can only think about what's been going on behind closed doors. But looking at this now where Hunter's in the position that he's in now, he's in Gorilla, he's calling the shots, he's basically running the show.
Yeah.
If Stephanie is being named in this suit now, does Hunter have any ties to this? Does Shawn Michaels have any ties to this? Because he's in close with Hunter.
I wouldn't say so. I don't think so. Shawn Michaels, by his own admission, back when he was running and kind of on top of his game, he was single, he was a womanizer. Shawn Michaels back in the day, did not have to pay or abuse any women to be with him. They willingly wanted to suck his dick.
He had sunny days.
Yeah. He was running around with, back in the day, he could have any woman he wanted. He didn't have to give women hush money. They were throwing themselves at his feet. So I don't think anyone that was close with Hunter would be stupid enough to get into something like that. I mean, obviously, as time went on, I am sure Helmsley knew at least about Vince McMahon not being faithful to Linda, at the very least, you know. But I don't know, man. Like, I think Hunter's pretty safe. He wouldn't. I just don't see it in Hunter. I don't see it in Shane. But yeah, it's not going to be a good time to be a McMahon if you're Stephanie or Vince, because it's especially knowing and you're told, keep your mouth shut. We got a good thing going here. We got a good rapport with the U.S. military. Just lay on your back and take it.
Yep.
And but again, look at his track record. I mean, there are wrestlers. Now, mind you, I'm not going to name names because I don't remember. I saw these shoot interviews years ago. And again, maybe it's not true. But there was one wrestler in one shoot that I watched about 10 years ago, said before Vince McMahon went out to introduce Aretha Franklin at WrestleMania 3, him and a few other wrestlers were doing lines of coke before the show started and running around like a lunatic backstage, you know, like, so I don't know. Well, again, all rumor and innuendo so far. They're all accusations, but Vince McMahon is he's in it pretty deep. If they can find, especially, like, I'm sure that like being in her position when she worked for WWE, whether it was that first position she was in or talent relations with John Laurinaitis, you would have had a weekly or bi-weekly paycheck go into your account every 2 weeks. So any extra money that would have come from Vince, obviously there's got to be a paper trail somehow. So I'm sure they'll subpoena her bank statements and stuff. And I'm pretty sure it's coming up in the next week or two that they have to present their evidence to defend themselves, to say, hey, we didn't do this. Now, they'll probably make a motion for more time. I'm almost sure they would.
Oh, guaranteed.
But I'm pretty sure it's this week or maybe next week that they were supposed to have evidence ready to present, like in the pre-whatever, however it's going to work. But,
the prelim.
Yeah, we'll call it the preliminary. Vince thought that the battle he had against the United States government back in 94 was the battle of his life. Jesus, that's nothing. That's a cakewalk compared to what he's got to go through now.
Dude, there's no neck brace that's going to save him. Like, if this comes out to be true, and now keep in mind, like, we're in the age of the internet. There was no internet back in 94 during the steroid scandal.
Nope.
All you seen was what was on the National Enquirer, what may have made its way to TV, to CNN or whatever.
Well, and the thing was back in 94 too, and it was Bruce Pritchard was the one that said, thank God for O.J. Simpson, because O.J. Simpson's trial was taking all the limelight at the time because they were going on pretty much at the same time. Yep. So if it wasn't for O.J., Vince would have had a lot more heat on him and limelight on him back in the 90s than if OJ hadn't done what he had done. Allegedly, by the way, he was found not guilty.
Allegedly, yes. Now, what's your take on John Laurinaitis in all of this? Because he's claiming to be a victim of Vince McMahon.
He's supposedly, from what I read, he kind of has been, because John Laurinaitis is a hole sucker. He always was. Yep. My God, Vince. Let's oil up those arms. Look at the guns. You look great today. Can I kiss your ass anymore? Fucking Funk Man. That's what I always called him. The Funk Man from Curb Your Enthusiasm. John Laurinaitis is a little weasel that supposedly before he left, he's financially taken care of, is what the rumors are, but he's also been set up to be a fall guy. Now his lawyer is claiming that he's a victim in all of this. Yeah. Well, you took this girl and you fucked her too, John. Mm-hmm. So you're no victim here. You are no victim at all. So I think, and there's a reason why he's named in the lawsuit with WWE and Vince McMahon. There's a reason. Now, at the very least, and this is bare bones minimum, at the very least, he knew about it. Even if he didn't put a finger on her, he knew about it. And I think that's why, at the very least, he's in the lawsuit with McMahon and the WWE. But I think, I don't think he's a victim. I think he is a fall guy for McMahon. He'll do anything he can for Vince McMahon because he's a hole sucker. And he's a weasel. God, Vince, your arms look great. Fuck, I hate the guy. Even just people power. I could never stand him. I still can't believe Road Warrior Animal was his brother.
Are you serious?
Oh, you never knew that?
No.
Yeah, they were brothers.
How in the fuck does that even happen?
I have no goddamn idea. You got one guy that's a road warrior and another guy was a dynamic dude. So I don't know. I don't know how that happens.
The more you learn. Holy Jesus Christ. I mean, now looking at the Laurinaitis standpoint, where you said that he's trying to, play victim. He's an associate of the situation, allegedly. See, that's where I'm looking at Hunter as having knowledge of what happened. Now, Laurinaitis allegedly did stick his dick in this situation.
Yeah.
Like that's what we'll go with. Hunter having knowledge of this and not coming forward with it, that's where I'm thinking that he may end up getting kind of pulled into this.
Well, again, I mean,
he's
definitely going to have to go in and testify. I mean,
yeah,
there's no way to avoid that. And
yeah,
they can't talk like conflict of interest or anything like that. It's just, he's going to be testifying in one form or another. But again, now with the lawsuit, I mean, they could, I don't know. We'll just say he's going to testify. There's no way to get out of it. And yeah, I mean, there's, I did talk about being torn though. Talk about being friggin' torn.
Yeah.
Now this is just, it's almost like a roll the dice at this point. How many more people, and I'm not going to say women, because I'm going to say that there's men going to come out with this too. How many more people do you see coming forward? Under 10, more than 10?
Man, I'm going to say more than 10.
Yeah.
You're going back. Like, this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
What's going on right now with Miss Grant, this is the tip of the iceberg. We're going back to the 80s when Vince took over controlling ownership of the WWF, the WWE now.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, the Ring Boys getting, sexually assaulted by Pat Patterson. The fact that Vince knew that this was going on, even though he claimed he didn't, there's got to be way more things. I mean, like, Jesus, there was even something that came out. I read online that Vince basically wrote in, like, Steph would have only been maybe 17 or 18. Like, she was just kind of getting her scene in WWE.
Right.
That Vince wanted to write in that he was having a sexual relationship with his fucking daughter.
I think I read that somewhere. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
If he was willing to go that far left field, imagine the shit that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Or the stuff that no one has even heard of yet.
Yeah, that's a pretty, and this is the greatness of Vince McMahon. Again, now, we have to keep saying, if this is true. Now, in my heart, I don't think anybody listening to this, I think everybody listening to this is smart enough to know that there is, at the very fucking least, a kernel of truth to these allegations. I think everybody knows that. But at the same time, it hasn't been proven. And if Vince McMahon, if he didn't do it, then cool, right on. That's awesome. But I don't know. I think that with all the crap and all the allegations, like I said, there's got to be some kernel of truth. And if there's not, well, then sorry, Vince, I didn't mean to call you an asshole or anything like that, but I still think you're a dirty pig and you deserve to rot in hell. And that's going to do it, guys, for another show. Vinny's in trouble. What's going to come out of this? We'll keep you updated the more we find out. Any new stuff? I don't know. More text messages? We'll let you know. In the meantime, my name is Doug. Thanks for tuning in. I'm out.